What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, programmers of all ages? Welcome back to this week's game development programming tutorial with HaxeFlixel. I swear I change that every week, and I'm starting to think we should just turn that into a feature. It's no longer a bug, it's a feature. In any case, so last week's tutorial, we finalized the melee testing state, or we should have. It's been a few days since the last tutorial. In any case, it should be up. So in this week's tutorial, we are touching on the range test state. We are going to go through from top to bottom and implement everything in the range test state. So by the end of today's tutorial, we should have a working range test state. So get your water, get your drinks, get your comfy seat. Mind bringing me a comfy seat as well, because I'm sitting on a wooden chair, which you can hear squeaking. So yeah, I need a comfy chair. In any case, it's going to probably be a longer video than usual. So let's get things started. So let's get things started by opening range test state.hx. Now, to make my life easier, I'm going to say Control A, backspace. We're going to start from fresh. Do this like we've never done this before. So we say a class range test state extends flx state. Nice. Import that sucker. We just do this properly because sometimes it doesn't do it for us. Then we say private var player of type player, and we've done all of this before, so this is now just us practicing muscle memory, going over it a few times. By the end of this tutorial series, you will be so sick of us doing this that you will want to throw your computer and go back to Unity, Godot, or what's the third one? Unreal Engine, because there is a lot of repetitive typing. In any case, next up we have private var ranged monsters of type flx typed group range monster. Next up, private var projectiles of type flx typed group projectile. Private var map of type flx Ogmo 3 loader. Private var walls of type flx tile map. Here we go, tile map. Private var player respawn pause. Yeah, for a sec I had thought I made a mistake with the notes, but no, the range test state is supposed to be a game state where where it's a continuous play. It's like an arcade mode. You shoot things, they die, you shoot more things, they die some more, but if you die, you respawn, so weird things. Anyways, private var monster pose array rejection equals empty array. Private var health bar of type flx bar. Private var background music type array of type string. Private var sound effects of type array flx sound. Cool. So we have a few things we need to import. We can click on it and press Control and then full stop. Import flx UI bar, and then same for Control save, and then same for the sound. Nice. Let me just click a few, but move a bit. Squeak this chair. Oh, it's going to be a lot of typing. Anyways, override, create. Thank you. Move it down one line. If you press shift and enter, it just jumps down to the next line. And we can say flx g dot world bounds dot set. We can say -1000, -1000, 2000, and 2000. Let's load in the map. So map equals new flx Ogmo 3 loader asset paths dot introduction to HaxeFlixel _ Ogmo asset paths dot ranged map JSON. Oh, by the way, you should probably also get the ranged map JSON information from Google GitHub, I mean, sorry. Here we go. Next we say walls equals map dot low tile map asset paths dot walls and floor _ object dot any, so it can collide with any walls dot set tile properties to 2, and for the ground one we don't want it colliding with any of it, so we say none. Nice. And then we add the walls to the scene. Nice. Next we say projectiles equals new FLX typed group of type projectile, and then we say add projectiles. Next let's add the player equals new player at 0.00 map dot load entities place player. So I will admit, in my notes it took me forever. I think only at like video 30 or something I discovered my mistake with this. Sorry, but since we're currently at video 28, I'm not going to spoil this. So how this works is we want this function to be ran whenever we want to load the entities, and we're specifically asking for which entity layer, and in this case it's the player layer. And when I set this up, I will admit I was a bit of a dumbass. The way you should have set it up is like they did it in the HaxeFlixel tutorial on their website. Rather just create one layer called entities and have all your entities under that layer. Don't worry, we will fix it later, but for now this works just fine with the Ogma 3 thing that we have set up. Then we say add layer, and that's going to scream at us because we don't currently have it. We will get to it momentarily. We're just going to go from top to bottom to add everything as we go. Next up, flxg.camera.follow. We want to follow the player top down and lerp of 1. Cool, let me just scroll down a bit so it's a bit easier for you guys to see. Ranged monsters equals new flx typed group of type ranged monster. Then we say map dot load entities, get monster locations, and we want the melee monster layer because I was a dumbass when I set this up. Don't worry, it will get fixed. For now we can just use the melee monster layer and add it to the scene. Don't worry, we'll add this function in a moment. Next, health bar equals new flx typed, no, that's a lie, flx bar at 0.00 left to right. We want it to be 100 wide, 10 high. We want it to be attached to the player. We want it to be a health bar. We want it to have a minimum of 0, maximum of 100, and we do want a border on our little bar. Nice. Then we can say health bar dot create full bar flx color dot red for the when it's empty, flx color dot green for when it's full, and we say true because we really want that border. Health bar dot track parent at 0.20 and -20 so that it is getting tracked at the top right of the player. We say add spoken type health bar. Cool. Next up, background music equals a new array, and this is going to be a lot of typing, so keep with me. Asset paths dot, well, actually no, we can cheat. Asset paths dot gameplay music 1 OGG. So you can just create a comma, then say Control C, Control V, 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 and V. Now you can just go over. Let me click. Say 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can save it. That should load all of our background music, well, at least the names of it. Next, let's scroll down a bit. We say flxg.sound.play music. We want to choose a random background one to choose to play. And we say from 0 to background music dot length -1. We say a sound of 1, and it is not looped because we have multiple tracks, so it would make no sense to loop it. We say flxg.sound.music.onComplete equals an anonymous function, or what's the other term for anonymous function? It's called a lambda function. That's one. So lambda function of flxg.sound.music equals null. Let's just make sure that the music is stopped. We don't care anymore. Ends here, and we say it does. Okay, now for the lots of typing, which is going to be a bit of a pain because I want to copy paste so badly. But because you guys are suffering with the typing, you should totally like this video to show your affection for me suffering with you guys. any case, flexg.sound dot underscore that, comma, 1 and false. And we can just say we need to copy it another 7 times. So it needs to be up to 8. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cool. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Now we can just go here and say asset paths dot, we're going to spell paths dot ice bolt, asset paths dot poison bolt, asset paths dot shock bolt, asset paths dot player getting hit, asset paths dot dragon tower getting hit, asset paths dot poison tower getting hit, asset paths dot ice tower getting hit. I just want to move these two because they're different in my notes and it's going to trip me off if they're not the same. Cool. And then finally asset paths dot Tesla tower getting hit, and that's everything for setup. Now just before we go, I want to label these so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you could have probably set it up in such a way that you create a hash map, I believe is the term for it, where you have like the name of the sound that is then associated with the sound that has been loaded to make things a bit easier. But for the sake of not using complex programming terminology thingies, let's just stick to this method and have us do a lot of typing and weird memorization things with the numbers on the side. Cool. Let me just get comfy again. Okay, next up it's override the update function. You can save that. Just move that down the line. Scroll down a bit. So if flxg.sound.music is equal to null, so if the song stopped playing, flxg, we can actually copy this from the top. We can say just copy this line. So if it has stopped playing, starts another song up for us. Thank you. And we say if player.health is less than 100, player.health is equal to, or we can just say plus equal elapsed. So that way the player's health is constantly regenerating in accordance to the time that has elapsed between frames. So if player.health is less or equal to 0, we want to say player.health is equal to 100, player.set position to player.respawn position dot get X, player.respawn position get Y. Cool. That respawns the player at the spot where it was initially spawned. Next we say health bar dot value is equal to that of player dot health, so they can keep track. Next we want to spawn some monsters. We want to shoot and then handle keyboard presses. Now later on we'll just move shoot under to handle keyboard presses, but for now my notes say this. Let's stick to my notes, otherwise I'll end up live coding and you guys will end up seeing me make a lot of mistakes, which it has its values, but more on live streams than tutorials. In any case, ranged monsters dot for each alive, handle monsters, handle rain monsters, projectiles dot for each alive, handle projectiles. Nice. Then we say flxg dot overlap between player and projectiles. We see handle player projectile collisions. flxg dot overlap between ranged monsters and projectiles. Then we say handle monster projectile collisions. Nice. Moving on. If flxg dot collide projectiles walls and then handle projectile walls collisions. If flxg dot collide and then player and walls, that way the player can't run through walls because that would be weird. Like just imagine player like ghosting through walls. Could be a fun mechanic. Could make like a Danny Phantom game. Could see that working. Any guess? Next up is private function place player entity and player respawn position equals new at point entity dot x and entity dot y, and then player dot set position at entity dot x and entity dot y. Nice. Let me scroll down a bit. Let me say private function get monster locations entity data if entity dot name is equal to melee monster, which it really shouldn't be. It should be ranged monster, but yada yada yada. Fix later. Everything other. All the other things that programmers say to keep procrastinating. And we push a new entity position y. Thank you. Entity.x and entity.y. You can save that. Next up, let's spawn in some monsters. And it doesn't take any arguments. Let me scroll down a bit. Let me say var projectile type, an array of projectiles. So we just need this array to randomly generate the entities or the monsters as they are requested. Just makes it a bit easier to keep it in its own little thingy. And it should be projectile type, not projectiles. Cool. Projectile firebolt, ice bolt, poison bolt, and shock bolt. Var positions is an array of empty position, and it's an empty array. Var current monster position array position equals empty. So this function, you're not allowed to judge me on it. It works, it does the job that it is needed, but for the life of me, do not, okay, maybe do not use this in a production environment. It may have better ways of being done. I spent like an entire day programming this, and well, day and a half, and this was the only way I could figure out how to get it to work. It caused a lot of sleeplessness in me. So we say ranged monsters dot for each alive, and then we want the monster of type ranged monster, new line, so the lambda function. Then we say var monster position equals new position, and then we say monster dot get position dot x, and then we can just copy that, control C dot y, current monster position dot push monster position. But this loop or this call just gets all the places where monsters are currently spawned, because we want to spawn monsters in places where no monsters are currently spawned, so we don't spawn them on top of one another. This goes through and gets the position of where monsters are currently spawned. If there is none, then the thing will just stay empty, and we can just move on with our lives. If there are, we'll get those positions and we'll remove those positions from positions where we should spawn. Then we say for position in monster positions var should add equals to true. Then we say for current position in current monster positions if pos.getX is equal to current monster position dot get x, or just current position, and pos dot get y is equal to current pos dot get y, then should add is equal to false. So what we're doing is comparing to see if so we're looping through all the positions where we're currently supposed to spawn, where monsters can spawn, let's rather say that. And we look through all the positions where the monsters are currently spawned. If a monster is currently spawned at that position where we're looking at, then don't spawn a new one. Otherwise, it will stay true, since this if statement will never get called. And then we can just say if should add then positions dot push position. So if we should add spawn a monster on that position, then add it to the list of positions we're about to spawn. Now the use for the third, so we have one array for where the monsters can spawn, an array for where the monsters are currently spawned, and now a third array for where monsters should be spawned. Now the reason we can't just create an array of where all the monsters are currently spawned, like a copy of it, and just remove elements from that array, is you end up getting funky runtime errors where position in pos positions, ranged monsters dot add new ranged monster, position dot get x, position dot get y. We wanted to target the player, projectile type, and we want to choose a random type of monster to spawn. We say random.int between 0 and projectile type dot length -1. Cool. So this function works. I've tested it. It should work most of the times. If it doesn't, then I don't want to touch it. It's your issue, not mine. No, I'm kidding. It should work. It should. Like 99% of the time, it should work. Anyways, let me just scroll down so you guys can see. Private function shoot if flxg dot mouse dot just pressed var mouse position equals flxg dot mouse dot get position projectiles dot add new projectile at player dot get graphics midpoint dot x and player dot get graphics midpoint dot y. We wanted to spawn at mouse position, or target mouse position I mean. We say player dot get projectile type, and then player dot, we just scroll on my notes, and then we just say it was, why you move, why go down, and it's over here, and we just say that it was spawned by the player. So the player is the current spawner. Then we say player dot fire and player dot health minus equals 1, so that we force. So the original idea was that the player is like a freelance blood mage that uses his own life force to cast these magic projectiles. So it just makes sense that every time a projectile gets cast, I believe it's cast, that it takes some of the player's health. So that, for one, it's an adorable little feature of our game, and also it forces the player to not just spam shoot all the time. Then we say player dot get projectile type, and then based on that we say, let me scroll down, so case firebolt, case ice bolt, case poison bolt, and then case shock bolt. Cool. So for the firebolt, let's play sound effects 0, so play. Then we can just Control C, Control V, Control V, and Control V. This should be 1, this should be 2, and this should be 3. That should handle the playing of the sound. Next up is private function handle keyboard new line. Cool. Another red line just got ticked. Another function is written. Less screaming at us. Then we say flxg dot keys dot any pressed, and we want to look at escape more specifically. So if escape was press, open a substate, open a new pause menu substate with pause menu substate with a color of black for the background. Cool. Next up, let's say private function handle ranged monsters, monster of type ranged monster if monster dot get should fire, and this is pretty much the same for the player's thingy, so we can just Control C most of that. We don't care for that, so we can just delete those lines instead of, so let me just move a bit. We can say monster dot get graphics midpoint dot x, monster dot get graphics midpoint dot y, monster dot get target, monster dot get projectile type dot get position. Okay, get projectile type, and then it is spawned by the monster. Cool. That was difficult. Then we say monster dot get projectile type. That way it plays the sound, it adds a projectile to the world. All is good. Monsters are shooting, bad guys are killing, good guys are saving lives. Everything is good with the world. Next is private function handle projectiles, and it takes a variable of type projectile. We just move this down one line. Then we say if projectile.get duration alive is greater or equal to 2, then we should probably kill the projectile. Projectile dot kill. And are you guys feeling the length of this video yet? Have you noticed? In any case, at least now you can say that you're getting your view times work. Private function handle player projectile collisions. We say player of type player projectile of type projectile, not projectile 1, projectile. We say if projectile dot get spawner does not equal the player, then player dot health minus equals 10, sound effects at 0.4 dot play, and then projectile dot kill. Nice. Wow, we're already at 226 lines of code. That is a lot. But we're almost done. The end is in sight, and we shall survive, and we shall come out on top as champions. Handle monster projectile collisions. It takes a monster of type ranged monster. It takes a projectile of type projectile. If projectile dot get spawner does not equal the player, oh no, it does equal the player, then we want to say monster dot kill projectile dot kill, and we want to play a sound to indicate that a monster was just killed. So monster dot get projectile type, we say case firebolt, case ice bolt, case poison bolt, and case shock bolt. So if it was one of these, well, it should be one of these. Sound effects at 0.5 dot play, and for this part we can just copy paste for the sake of not typing unnecessarily. So this will be 6, this will be 7, and this will be 8. Nice. And now finally the final function. Let me just scroll down. Private function handle projectile walls collisions. It takes a projectile of type projectile and wall of type FLX map, and then we can just say projectile dot kill, and that should be all the errors. Let's see if the game works. I just want to make sure. Yeah, the audio output is off, so you guys shouldn't hear the sound of the game, but it is still playing. I just didn't want the sound of the game interfering with the audio recordings. And we say line test hl-debug. I'll be back once this has compiled. Okay, the game has compiled. The sound is still playing. We say test ranged map, and you have it. As you saw, they can hurt us. They still shoot. The audio is working. Let me see. Yep, it works. Cool. That works perfectly. So thank you for watching this week's tutorial. If you liked, drop a like, subscribe, tell your friend, tell your family members, hell, go stand on the corner of the street, tell strangers if you have to. But let's introduce people to the wonderful world that is game development and typing big classes and states. So altogether, 251 lines. If you followed along, you did extremely well. If you did not follow along, the code is in the GitHub description down below, and you're probably a smarter man than the rest of us, or smarter person. In any case, enjoy your week. See you next week. Goodbye.